Okay, in this example, in interpreting graphs, we're looking at Fred's race. So Fred ran a race. Okay, so this is the distance that he's traveling since the beginning of the race. So you can see that in this graph, his distance follows a few different patterns here. So there's 5 different patterns, A, B, C, D, and E. So what's happening in each one of these patterns according to what we've learned? Let's just review what we've learned a little bit. Let's go back up here. So when the graph is steep, we know that the distance is increasing quickly, so he's going fast. And if the graph is less steep, it means he's going slower, but it's still increasing, right? The distance is increasing. And then if the arrow of the line is going down, it means that the distance is decreasing. So if it's steep, he's still decreasing quickly, or faster. And here, if the line is not going as steep, he's still decreasing, but it's going slower. Okay, the graph is going down, but not quite as fast. Think of it as a running down the hill, or cycling down this hill. You would be going really fast if you were cycling down this hill. But if it was not as steep, you'd still be going down, but not as fast. And if you were, cycling on this hill, it's pretty flat. So here the distance, if this is the graph of the distance, it's not increasing, it's the same, it's stopped. You're not moving because your distance is always the same. So let's put all that together and to describe what's happening in Fred's race. Okay, let's just be a little bit more specific with the distance. So this distance that we're measuring is a distance from the starting line. So if here, at this point right here, the distance from the starting line is 0. That means he's right at the starting line. And at the end of the race, the distance is still 0. It's still 0. So that means that the race was a loop. So he ran a loop in a circle. Okay, because the distance from the starting line at the beginning of the time was 0. And at the end of the race, it was still 0. So that means he went a certain distance, and he came back. And he came back to the starting line, which was also the finish line. Okay, so let's look at each one of these sections. So what's happening? What do you think is happening in A, section A? So it looks like he's increasing his speed. The distance is increasing, but he's not going quite as fast as he is in B. So he's probably starting off slow. So he's probably starting his race off slow. Starting off slow, which is a good thing to do when you're running a race. You shouldn't go out too fast. And what's happening in part B? Well, after a certain amount of time, he's warmed up and he's ready to increase the speed. So it's very steep, so he went faster. He went a lot faster. So in part B, he increased his speed. He's running faster. Okay, so he started off slow, and then at this point in time right here, he started going fast. But then what happened? In point C, maybe he ran too fast, so maybe he got a cramp, or maybe he had to stop, because from this point in time here to this point in time, he did not increase his distance. He didn't move, so that means he stopped. Maybe he got a cramp or something, and he had to stop. Okay, so what's happening in part D? Well, now he is going closer to the starting line, or the finish line, the start-finish line. But it's not that steep. So the distance to the starting line is he's getting closer, but it's not as steep as part E. So he probably started running back slower. So he's running to the finish slower. And then in the last part of the race, it looks like it was a little steeper. So that means he's going faster. He's going faster to the finish line. So at the end of the race, he had some extra energy, and he runs faster back to the start/finish line. So this is a good example that shows all of the things that we talked about in interpreting graphs. So he's slower. He started off slow, then it went steeper, so he's going faster. the distance is increasing faster. And here, distance didn't increase at all, so he stopped for a few minutes. And then he started going closer to the finish line. And then in the last part, it was steeper, so he was probably running or ran faster and back to the finish line. And the distance to the finish line is 0. So it starts off, does a loop, and comes back.